Good evening, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Shane Foley from the IMPD Public Affairs Office. We'd like to welcome everyone to our sixth district town hall. We're here at North District with Commander Wally, and I look forward to having him be introduced here shortly. There are a couple things I want to bring up before we get to that. First, we are recruiting. You've probably heard it before, but we will keep saying it. But one thing that was announced earlier today is we are going to have a third recruit class this year. It's the first time we've done that in a long time. And on top of that, we put a lot of effort into shortening the time period from the application to when people start. So if you apply, you're going to know a little bit sooner when you're going to start to become a police officer. And I say when you're going to start because we're hoping that people who are here on this call apply and join, because we're looking for some excellent officers to join IMPD. I also want to take this opportunity to mention that we are having an additional town hall. It's our Hispanic and Latino town hall on April 25th at 6 p.m. and that's going to be located at the Santa Monica Catholic Church at 6131 Michigan Road. It's going to be in Spanish. We're going to have translators there to communicate both in English and Spanish. We want to reach out to that population. So we look forward to people joining us April 25th at 6 p.m. At the Santa Monica Catholic Church for our Hispanic and Latino Town Hall. Before we get into Commander Wally's presentation, I'd like to introduce Assistant Chief of Police Chris Bailey to give a welcome and introduction. Chief.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Lieutenant. Good evening, Commander Wally. I appreciate everyone who's taken the time tonight to be with us. Chief Taylor is on the call, I believe, listening. He's having some technical difficulties, and that's why you get me tonight talking to you instead of the better-looking Chief Taylor. So I hope that you are engaging with us tonight, that you ask questions. We'll try to get as many questions answered tonight, and if we don't get them answered in this hour, we'll make sure that we reach out and get those questions answered one way or the other. Commander Wally will leave you contact information for you to get in contact with his team on North District to help you address your issues. We want to partner with you. I have complete faith in Commander Wally and his team. They do fantastic work up on the North District, and his leadership has made a difference over the last several years. Having sat in his seat, I know what a great community we have on our North District, and he has done a great job in partnering with you to help address all the challenges that we face together right now in this time. So without any further ado, I'll turn it back to Lieutenant Foley, and I'll be on the call here tonight if there's additional questions for me as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. And as Chief mentioned, we do want to hear your questions. If you do have questions or comments, please put them in the question section at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get to as many as possible. If we can't get to all your questions, we will certainly get you a response if you provide your contact information. So the way this format's going to work is I'll turn it over to Commander Wally, and he'll have a presentation about what's been going on North District this last year, and then we'll jump into your questions. So, Commander, it's all yours.
Thanks, LT. First and foremost, thank you for everyone tuning in tonight. The chief said it best. We appreciate all the support that we have from the North District community, and we are excited to kind of present some information and things that we've been working on over the last year or several months, and kind of tell you where we're going with some of the dealing with some of the issues that we see coming in the future. I am Commander Michael Wally. I've been in this role for roughly 5 years. I've been on the department for 17 years. A little bit of background about me. I'm from Indianapolis. I've been here all my life. Attended Washington Township schools here on North District. I went to University of Indianapolis for undergraduate and attended Indiana Wesleyan for graduate school. We got a lot of information to cover, so I'm going to go through this agenda pretty quickly. We're going to start off with an overview of the district. We're going to talk about the year 2022. I'll give a recap of crime trends. We're going to talk about our focus or where we're going from now moving forward into 2024. We're going to talk about evidence-based policing and the policing methodology that we have deployed here on North District and citywide. Talk about technology enhancements that we've had throughout the last year or so. We're going to give you kind of an update on the Enhanced Community Safety Initiative, ECSI. Briefly touch on problem-oriented policing. We're going to talk about some of the resources that we have available to help some of our citizens in need, discuss emerging crime trends, and then I'll leave some contact information. And most importantly, we'll have some time for questions. This is North District. As you can see, it's situated in this middle picture. You can see it's situated in the most northern part of Marion County towards the eastern side. Very large district, 74 square miles. This is actually a photograph to the right of our headquarters here at 3120 East 30th Street. This building or facility is nestled in what used to be the old zoo, but we're in Washington Park. This photo on the left is actually when the building was dedicated in 1990. Please take note of the social media handles for both our Facebook and Instagram. That is one way that we interact with our community. We post a lot of information about crime tips and trends, while also trying our best to engage you through social media. And you also get an insight on some of our officers and their stories and why they became police officers. So let's talk about our staffing and how it's allocated. We have 1 captain, 5 lieutenants, and 16 sergeants, 15 detectives, of which some of them are general detectives. And then also we have some of our violence reduction detectives. We have 155 patrol officers, making our sworn total 193 officers and 8 civilians. I'll tell you, there's not much we can get done without our civilian staff, and so I truly thank them for their contribution to getting this district moving in the right direction and operating smoothly. This brings our grand total of staffing to 201. This is just a photograph of the executive leadership team on the district, anchored by Captain Kim Joyner-Young. She's got a wealth of experience and knowledge on board. She's been with the department for, probably shouldn't say how long she's been on the department, but we'll just say the Bears won a Super Bowl when she was in the academy. Under her is Lieutenant Crotty, who leads our investigative general detectives. Last year, they triaged and handled 5,600 cases, ranging from some of your lower level felonies to misdemeanors. They do a phenomenal job on the district. He's got a great group working downstairs for us. Then you've got Lieutenant Mike Jefferson, who leads our day shift team, roughly 48 officers who operate between the hours of 05:30 to 2 o'clock. Next to him is Lieutenant Ryder in the middle. He's our middle shift lieutenant, and he has our youngest shift. They operate between 1:30 and 10 o'clock p.m. Next to Lieutenant Ryder is Smiley himself. He is smiling in this photograph. This is Lieutenant Greg Scott. He commands our proactive units and our community relations efforts across the district. And last but not least is Lieutenant Larry Atkins, who is in command of our late shift team, roughly 50 officers that operate during the overnight hours between 9:30 p.m. and 6 o'clock a.m. Great leadership team, great wealth of knowledge and experience. Like I said before, North District is roughly 74 square miles, 20 patrol beats. Our northern boundary is 96th Street all the way across to Ditch on the western side of the district. It jogs down from Ditch to Grandview. Take Grandview down as it goes out to Michigan Road, down to MLK, and then we stay in the inside of 65 and take that all the way just on the outskirts of downtown, roughly around 14th Street. And then we jog right on up Mass Avenue to Emerson, jog straight north, and we follow the creek and expand out to Geis. Very large district, take between 90, 100,000 police runs a year with 201 officers. We do our best. We do a great job, and I hope that you feel the same way too. So let's talk about last year, 2022. Criminal homicides, those remain flat for us from 2021 to 2022. We endured 49 homicides or incidents of homicides. Sexual offenses incidents were down 13%. Robberies were pretty much flat, but I rounded up to show a 1% increase in robberies. Aggravated assaults were also up 4.7%. Non-fatal shooting incidents were down 14%. As far as our violent crime totals as a whole, when we look at all the other categories that come into our violent crime categories, we remain flat from 2021 to 2022. Now, looking at our property crimes, burglaries continue to trend downward, down 5%. Larceny incidents down 1.8%. Arsons down significantly. Motor vehicle thefts were up slightly, and then larceny incidents as a whole, again, that's a double, down 1.8%, bringing our property crime actually was down 3% from 2021 to 2022. Bring our overall crime on the district was down 2.5%. Now we're going to go into our plan, and I know I'm moving through this relatively quickly. I just want to make sure that we have time for your questions. First and foremost, 3 pillars that we operate on a daily basis on North District. If we can get these 3 pillars down, I feel like we found success across the district. The first of which is impacting violent crime. We seek each and every day to reduce violence in our community. Enhancing community relationships, making sure that we take time to make each and every interaction a positive one for our community is the best way to get that done. And then the last one is continuing to develop and pour into our officers that keep our neighborhoods safe. If we can continue to get them education, continue to get them details to other parts of the agency, it creates a well-rounded officer providing the best service for our community. The roadmap to success and how we're going to get that done, again, is touching on evidence-based policing, technology. We'll talk about the Enhanced Community Safety Initiative here in a second, but most importantly, focusing on not stats, but the impact of those stats. Now we'll go into problem-oriented policing, and then we'll talk through some of the resources that we have at our disposal. Now let's get into evidence-based policing. The important factor in this is that these are proven methods through scientific research that they are effective in reducing crime. And the methodology that we actually use on the department is hotspot policing. And basically what that means is we are looking for high concentrations of crime. They can be as large as a couple streets or blocks, or as small as just a corner. And the idea is to pump resources into that area with a focus on driving down crime. Now, hotspot policing is not something that's new. It's actually been around since 1989. There have been several studies. In fact, there have been 78 total studies talking about hotspot policing, of which 62 of those studies reported drastic declines and reductions in crime. The most important factor, though, in hotspot policing is the impact that it has on the community. And so that means we have to be strategic about how we deploy those resources and what those resources are doing within the community. And so the way that we get that done with what we call dosage. So dosage is simply markouts in some of our hotspot areas. It's just a way of showing visibility in those areas. Bike patrols, foot patrols, markouts, directed patrols, driving through neighborhoods, just with the idea of being visible in a small concentrated area for 10 or 15 minutes at a time. As you heard earlier, 74 square miles is a tremendous landmass, and we're operating typically with 21 to 26 officers at a time. Also taking police runs. So we do our best to have those markouts and those opportunities to be in the neighborhoods, in those hotspots, and interact with the community. This is all developed based on the Cooper curve, which is out of that hotspot policing model that was in Minnesota, tested it in Sacramento, where it simply says if you put an officer in an area that is impacted by crime for a period of 7 to 10 minutes, you can see a reduction in violence for a couple of hours. It maximizes at around 10 or 15 minutes. And so that's the goal, is being visible in our community and to reduce crime, but also to interact with our community as a whole. On North District, the shifts are required to report out where our officers are marking out. As you can see in this table, you'll see citizen-generated calls for service totals. From 21 to 22, you saw a slight reduction in the total calls for service. These are calls where citizens are actually calling in for police services. Now, if you look at unit-initiated calls for service, these are those markouts. These are off-duty employment markouts. These are foot patrols. These are directed patrols. These are those times where we're in your neighborhood marking out. And as you can see, North District, there was a slight reduction from 2021 to 2022. But you can see the numbers are pretty high. With 2022, we had roughly 55,912 markouts. If you go for overall calls for service, so this is the overall workload of the officers in 2022, you see a combined total of 151,883, which is slightly down from 2021. So it's important to figure out how we go about deploying our resources. We're not just out there haphazardly throwing officers out into the community. What we do is we have data analysts inside of our camp, and we research the last 24 hours or incidents that have occurred within the last couple of days. Each officer is kind of given a snapshot of the last 24 hours and sometimes a couple of days to note key incidents that have occurred, areas that need to be patrolled, people of interest, and things of that nature. And so it's important to note that we don't leave headquarters without a plan in place, and our officers are responsible for executing that plan each and every day, developing intel, and interacting with our citizens. So now we're going to talk about technology. This is an excellent topic. You know, we talked about, we were recruiting earlier in this town hall. It's important to know that, you know, technology can sometimes help us out where we fall short with staffing. And so thank you to the mayor, city, county council, and other grants that have come available for us where we can roll out technology. It's a layered approach where we utilize cameras and LPR and all different sorts of technology to help us reduce crime within the community. Some of those things that we have in place, the LPR, which basically allow us to input information, and we're able to identify stolen vehicles, vehicles that we are interested in that have been involved in some sort of crime. We have cameras that are monitoring high crime areas and locations, or areas where there might be a lot of people or a large gathering. Another technology that's recently come on board, a couple years ago, we lost our aviation unit when our helicopter was taken out of service. Since then, we've stood up a drone program. We now have, I believe, 12 drones and 13 drone pilots now. This technology is used for missing persons, if there's a situation where someone flees from us, or for gathering evidence on a scene. It's important to note that the technology that we use it appropriately. We have rules that we have to follow, and we cannot impede on your privacy. And so everything that we do must be constitutionally sound, and we use our technology appropriately. Now, here's an opportunity with B-Link where you can get involved. B-Link Indy is an opportunity for you to register your pre-existing cameras on your homes. This helps out should something happen within your community. It allows our detectives to know exactly where to go for a possible ring camera or surveillance footage from the incident. The other piece is for our business partners and business community, which is B-Link Pro, which allows individuals to stand up a camera on their business, and IMPD has access to that video streaming information live. It's very beneficial should something happen at a business where we are able to tap in and see in real time what's going on, but also the evidentiary value that it offers should something happen and we need to get information for our detectives to further investigate the incident. Now, it is also important to note that we don't monitor these cameras 24/7, but should there be a large gathering or event, if there are B-Link cameras, it does help us kind of monitor that and keep everyone in that area safe. So the Enhanced Community Safety Initiative is something that we stood up as a department in 2020, April of 2020. So I think we're coming on 3 years. It basically, what we did is we reallocated resources to focus in on gun violence. We had narcotics detectives that were moved to focus specifically on shots fired incidents or incidents where rounds were fired into businesses, cars, or things of that nature. And so we took our then narcotics detectives and flex teams and turned them in violence reduction teams, and also gun detectives who investigate those shots fired incidents. It's important to note, and I left it off, I know many of you are aware of the pilot program that was launched on East District last year. We are awaiting the results of the pilot. That information or the data has been sent over to a researcher who will compile a report, and then the taxpayers, city, county council, or mayor can decide whether or not that's something that we want to move forward with. But now, since we're on the topic of reducing violent crime, it's important to note, you're going to see in the next slide the stats for my violence reduction team 1 and 2, and also my gun detectives. Now, they are operating during peak hours of violence. And so the earliest team comes in at 10 a.m. and the latest team leaves at 4 a.m. So a lot of coverage, deploying in real time to those incidents where violence occurs. As you're going to see the data sets on the next slide, it's important to understand that the true measure of our success is the impact. And so what I mean by that is a lot of these incidents where there's shots fired and a community is plagued and scared about rounds being fired in their neighborhoods and their communities, and they're fed up with it. And these detectives go into these incidents and they investigate, and the goal is to bring some relief to that community by taking that person out of that community that for no other reason just will not conform to societal norms and continues to perpetrate violence or fire their firearms recklessly in the community, and they make arrests. So the goal is not necessarily to generate the stat, but it's for the positive impact that it leaves, the sense of relief on that community. You're going to see lots of pictures of our officers. I think it's important for you to see them and what they look like. Great group. This is our violence reduction team 1, violence reduction team 2, and then our gun detectives. And as you can see, the data sets again, these guys do a phenomenal job, guys and gals do a phenomenal job of getting out there and investigating these incidents of violence. And as you can see, the numbers speak for themselves. But again, it's the impact. It's the impact. It's the impact. So in order to deploy a good crime reduction strategy, you have to make sure that you're being proactive, but you're also trying to make sure that you have the community's collaborative efforts, and to make sure that you're identifying patterns and looking for the root causes. And that's pretty much the premise for problem-oriented policing. There's a multitude of things that contribute to violence or crime or disorder. And so problem-oriented policing really looks at those patterns and it identifies those potential root causes. And it takes strong partnership with social services. It takes community collaboration. It takes a lot of things to get it done. Part of that is understanding what those issues are. And so I'm going to stop here for a second. For those of you that are using your cell phones to watch this program, and go ahead and screenshot this. What this is this is a QR code. This QR code will take you to a survey. The survey will ask a series of questions. The goal is to understand what's going on in your neighborhood. What are your concerns? What are the things that are keeping you up at night? What are some things that you think that we can work together on and come up with a plan of to alleviate some of those concerns? For those of you that are using your laptops, if you want to screenshot it too, or if you just want to use your camera phone, use your camera feature on your phone to actually take you to the link and fill that out. You'll see this towards the end of the slide as well. This is my CRU team, and they do just about any and everything. These are the guys that are going to be at the community meetings. These are the ones that the neighborhood presidents are reaching out to, voicing concerns, and these are the ones that are going to be at your community events and really focused on developing relationships and taking the lead on projects to address your concerns. Phenomenal group of officers. They work hard each and every day, but they are doing the stuff behind scenes that are really trying to develop those relationships. And these over here to the left, you'll just see a list of some of the things that they offer, some of the classes that they offer, and things that they do. So we talked about impact earlier. Well, impact works not necessarily only with crime reduction, but we can also talk about impact with social services and things that our community needs. I take you to the pictures to the far right. This is a perfect example of the community reaching out to law enforcement because they identified an elderly female who they felt like was going through a mental health crisis. She just happened to be homeless, or at least we were told that she was homeless. The information was given to one of our CRU officers. That CRU officer got her team together and they canvassed this area. This is in the Broad Ripple community to try and locate this elderly female. They weren't able to find her after a couple of days of searching, but they were given information about where she could possibly be staying, and this is that location. And actually, she was laying behind this AC unit. We left food, blankets, and some information for her to contact us if she was so inclined. The officers then sent information out to the shift for help in trying to find her so that we can make sure that she had everything that she needed. One of our late shift officers, in response, the email actually went out and tried to locate her and was able to find her. When we found this female, she was elderly and going through mental health crisis, and she had been in the same clothing for over a year. Medics were on scene and had to peel off her clothes because she had been wearing them for so long. But that CRU officer assigned herself to this young lady and was able to walk her through all the services that she needed to help her continue on and get the help that she needed. This next picture is our beat officer, Officer Tracy Connett. She's been on the department for a long time, but she has been working the same area. And one of the things that she noticed was there was a need for some food in this community. And while and this is around, sorry, the roll call area. And while we have strong partnerships with Gleaners and other social service providers, and we do the mobile food pantries and all those things, she wanted something a little closer to roll call. And she came into my office and she asked if she could create a pantry for someone to use if they needed. So she took it upon herself to create this food pantry that is used every single day. And we hope that the community and several people know about it. But if not, if it's only one family that's using it, that's good enough because they're getting the things that they need. And that was the intent. And we are happy about that. And so those are just two stories of other things where we talk about impact, not necessarily stats, but impact on the community. Now let's talk about a progress report of where we are as compared to last year. Last year, around this time, we had roughly 12 criminal homicides. This year we have 7, so we're down 42%, which is not the best, but it's better than where we were last year. You can go through the other crime categories, but some that stand out. Robberies are down 2%. Aggravated assaults are down 21%. Going over to our property crimes, burglaries again continue to trend down. We're at 31% at the moment, bringing our total property crime is actually up 12%. But I want to bring your attention to that vehicle theft category right there. That's important to note that nationwide we are seeing an uptick in vehicle thefts associated with Kias and with Hyundais. There's a TikTok challenge that was out. We started tracking it early or middle of last year when other jurisdictions around the country were seeing an uptick in stolen vehicles in these particular brands, and now that has touched home. So I ask that you keep a good eye on your vehicles. Please do not leave them running, but let's work together on trying to drop these numbers as far as with the vehicle thefts. So resources, like I said before, the way that we reduce crime, the way that we address that wheel that we saw earlier with some of the things that contribute to crime, disorder, or a sense of a lack of hope are the resources, and they're based off of the partnerships that we have. One of the resources that we have available to us is our MCAT unit. I believe we have roughly 7 MCAT units citywide. They do a great job of getting in real time responding to runs. Basically, the officer is paired up with a clinician and they are able to go and help those who are going through a mental health crisis. They're able to slow things down, get the officers that are responding to other runs back in service, and then give the follow-up care that would come afterwards. But 2 shifts of that right now, one starting at 7:30 a.m. and one starting at 10 a.m. On North District in 2022, our MCAT detective, Terry Smith, responded to over 500 calls of our citizens in need. So they are busy, they are doing a great job, and it is a valuable resource. The AIC, or the Assessment Intervention Center, located at 2917 East Pleasant Run Parkway, was stood up in 2020 during the pandemic. This is where we have that discussion with our officers. You know, there are certainly people within our community who continue to perpetrate crime or violence. And those people may need to be removed, meaning arrested. But then there are certainly other people who need help. And knowing the difference and being able to delineate between the two is extremely important for our beat officers. And this is one of those tools or resources that our officers have at their disposal, the AIC, which basically provides social services to our communities or those who are in need, whether it's addiction counseling, withdrawal, mental health screenings, all different sorts of things. But it is a great tool for our officers to utilize when they recognize that there is a need for help and not a need to arrest. Another thing that we are tracking initially, we saw it a lot on the southern portion of the county, but now it is in our district as well. The opioid issue was within our boundaries. Last year was a deadly year for opioid overdoses. In fact, we had over 800 overdose deaths. It's important to note that each and every one of our officers has naloxone on their person to utilize should they come into contact with someone that needs help. But then each of the roll calls have it available to anyone in the community that would need this as well. We have a strong partnership with social service providers such as Overdose Lifeline that help us continue to try and impact this deadly opioid crisis. Now let's talk about some of the trends that we're seeing as well. So this is not necessarily here locally, this is nationally, and it's just to show that this is something that impacts other jurisdictions. This is actually from the New York Times, but last year we started tracking the fact that we were losing a lot of firearms to burglaries and most importantly, vehicle break-ins. In fact, last year in 2022, we lost 367 firearms. Now, I showed you the data set where our violence reduction team and gun detectives had seized 304 crime guns, but we lost 367 firearms to either burglaries or to vehicle break-ins. I employ and encourage you all to leave your firearms in the trunk if you have to leave it in your vehicle. And if they are in your homes, please lock them up in a safe. That is the only way that we're going to keep firearms out of the hands of people that should not have them. Now we'll talk about some important dates that are coming up. Here, the first one is our apartment complex roundtable. That's actually the flyer over there to the one side of your screen. If you notice in the middle of that flyer, there is a WebEx link. Please screenshot this if you're on the phone, or if you're on a computer, take a picture of it. This is specific to apartment complexes. We want to make sure that our apartment complexes have the resources and things that they may need when they need them should crime start to occur within their community, or should they notice someone may be going through mental health crisis. This is a roundtable that is going to be led by one of our community relations Master Patrol Officer, Johnny Lee. It is scheduled for April 19th. At 10 a.m. and the link is provided in the middle of that flyer to the left. The other one is May 12th. We have a kickball challenge. The Avondale Meadows youth, Avondale Meadows YMCA youth have challenged IMPD North District to a kickball challenge. This will be the third of its kind. The first year we tied. The second year we won, and I intend on winning again. But if you want to come out and cheer us on as we just engage our youth in the Avondale Meadows area, we will be playing kickball May 12th at roughly 2 p.m. A lot of the executive staff and the chiefs come out and enjoy this opportunity just to interact and have fun with kids in the area as well. Another important date is our Indiana Car Seat Safety Day out at Ivy Tech. If you know someone that needs a car seat, this is going to be for you. This is an opportunity to fill out some information and receive a car seat for free of charge. And they will actually install that car seat as well. The last is North District Community Day. It will be at Castleton Mall again on June 3rd from 12 p.m. To 3 p.m. This is a day where we just come out and just celebrate each other. Celebrate getting together, celebrate life, celebrate, good food, and just having a good time together with our community. Last year, it was really well attended. We hope that it will be really well attended again. There's food, games. Last year, I was able to convince Chief Bailey to get in the dunk tank and He and I both, we raised some money for our community and our officers in the dunk tape. It was a good time. Finally, I wanted to provide some contact information. If you look towards the middle of the page, you'll see the North District Command staff on down. These are going to be important email contacts. Again, for time's sake, if you want to just screenshot or take a photograph, you will have contact to both me, the captain, our Lieutenant Greg Scott, who is in charge of community relations and our proactive teams, but also Lieutenant Crotty, who is in charge of our investigative detectives. And then Sergeant Mims is down there as well with community relations. And then each of our shift lieutenants, should you have an issue that is occurring during those hours that I laid out, again, Lieutenant Mike Jefferson, 0530 to 2 o'clock, Lieutenant Rob Ryder, 1:30 to 10 o'clock, Lieutenant Larry Atkins from 9:30 to 6 a.m. Please shoot them an email and make sure you give them what your concerns are, or if it's just to praise our officers for firing an outstanding job, they would love to hear from you as well. Now I have gotten through all the information as soon as I could. Again, there's that QR code for the survey if you want to take an opportunity while we're answering questions to take a screenshot of that, or if you whatever you need to do with that. And if you want to start taking the survey, please do. We will take that feedback. Again, those will be projects that will be assigned to CRU and beat officers. And then we just really would love to see your feedback on some of the questions about the services that we provide to you as well.
Thank you, Commander, for that very thorough presentation. I'm going to go ahead and jump into these questions because we've got quite a few. First one says, it feels like there's been more incidents that are happening in broad daylight. For example, the North Shadeland area homicide on December 31st, just after lunch. 2 people shot on Easter at about 11:30 a.m. Is there a trend of more broad daylight violence, or are these outlier incidents?
I don't know that it's necessarily a trend of more daylight violence. First and foremost, what we are finding is there is erosion and conflict resolution, and people are taking it upon themselves to solve problems by using violence. And unfortunately, they are doing it at times where there are others around during the day, during the night, and they're happening all over the city, and they're happening at any time of day. But data has shown us that more than likely the violence is happening during the nighttime hours. I think just roughly after 9 o'clock into about 3 or 4 o'clock. But you will see sometimes people perpetrating violence during the daylight hours. So I know I said a lot to just go back and say I don't know that it's necessarily an outlier. It's something that has happened before, but a majority of the time it is during those later night hours.
Thanks, sir. Diana asked, did you say there are 12 drones? Is this for North District or countywide? And how long can the drones stay up before losing power?
So the drones, there are 12 drones citywide, 13 pilots. I have 3 drone pilots on North District. I'm sorry, I have 2 drone pilots on North District. I think that's something that we're looking to expand upon. Obviously, it's going to take funding to buy additional drones, but that's certainly technology that we would like to kind of grow. The more of those we have available in real time, the better that we will be. So yes, 2 on North District, 12 countywide.
Certainly, we can borrow those resources from other districts whenever
Right.
your drone operators aren't working. Second part of that question, I'm not sure if you know the answer or we necessarily want to answer it, but it said, how long can the drone stay up before losing power?
So that's a great question. I'm not going to sit here and try and answer that question. It's my limited knowledge. I believe there's a tethering system that can allow them to stay up a little bit longer, but I can certainly find out based on the chat and get back with you if that was a question that was asked in the chat.
Next question is, why did you lose the helicopter? It would seem the helicopters and drones each have their own particular uses.
Probably should, if it's my understanding that the helicopter that we had was pretty old, and it got to the point to where the upkeep of the helicopter started to outpace, it started to be more and more expensive. And I think it just made good business sense to go ahead and move to newer technology. But I looked like Chief Bailey popped in.
Yeah, we were flying the oldest law enforcement helicopter in the country. It was a 1967 Bell Jet Ranger. Now it had been everything and it had been replaced over time. However, they didn't make parts for it anymore, and parts had to be individually manufactured for that. And it was around 2019, 2020. We were entering a pandemic. We didn't know what the economy was going to do. We didn't know what the budget looked like, and so we had to, we obviously made an ask to purchase new helicopters, but we didn't get those, and so we had no choice but to sell the one we had remaining. But it's a topic of conversation now. I don't know where it'll lead to, but it's a necessary tool for a major city to host these type of events that we have in our city. And so to me, it's an investment well worth it when you talk about liability of vehicle pursuits and recovering stolen vehicles and add on to the additional technology that we've already paid for. So there are further discussions on what that looks like in the future, but that's the story behind why we lost the one we had.
Thanks, Chief. Next question, Commander, is why is the MCAT only working Monday through Friday? I'm sure there are times on the weekends that they are needed.
I think ideally we would want to be able to provide that resource 24/7 every day of the week. But I think it comes down to some of the issues with the partnerships and then making sure that we have the availability of staffing to get that done. There are certainly talks of expanding that unit. I don't know when or if there will be coverage in the next few months or so, or up to a year or whatever. But it's certainly something that we want.
I think it's worth noting that all of our officers go through mental health first aid, that they receive a number of hours of scenario-based training on mental health scenarios, and we have a number of officers who are CIT officers. So beyond the resources of MCAT, which we certainly appreciate, and they serve a valuable purpose, a lot of our officers on IMPD have training well above and beyond what the state of Indiana requires for mental health training. Commander, can you go back one slide that has the contact information for us? Somebody asked, just wanted to know who to explain our concerns in the neighborhood. I think they're just asking who do we need to contact if we have concerns about things going on in their neighborhood. And is there anybody in particular on this list that they should reach out to?
I would say Lieutenant Greg Scott would probably be the best person to contact if there are concerns. Again, that QR code that I provided on the next screen allows you an opportunity if there are long-standing concerns or things that have been an issue for a while. But in real time, I would say reach out to Lieutenant Scott or Sergeant Corey Mims for any concerns.
Jessica says, I just want to thank all the officers. Thank you for taking the time to present. Thank you, Jessica, for that comment. Elliot said, has the city considered something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training for its officers? Controlled studies indicate that when officers are more confident and better able to restrain people without the need for a gun or other lethal force, that there are less officer injuries and better crime apprehension.
Mm. I don't know that specific discipline will only be used. I think they, at least to my knowledge, the training academy does teach some of the stuff in that discipline. I don't know that we'll ever be in a position to be able to teach that solely, but that's going to be a training question.
Yeah, it is incorporated into some of the defensive tactics training um, that the recruits get. I know that for certain. And has been for years since I came
Yeah.
on 15, 16 years ago. Next question, David says, what percentage of firearms related crimes use illegally obtained possessed firearms?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have that information. That's something I would have to follow up with at a later time.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't know if that's a stat that we would be able
Yeah.
to even, we don't specifically track that as a stat in of itself. But certainly just anecdotally, we know that a lot of the firearms that are possessed during when people are make arrests are illegally possessed, at least. Illegally obtained. What makes something illegally obtained other than if it's stolen?
Right.
And that's a good reminder for our gun owners to keep track of your serial numbers on guns, because we find oftentimes that when guns are stolen and they're reported, um, the gun owners don't have their serial number, so we can't even put that into the system and track. We may run across a gun on the street, and if the gun owner didn't report that as a serial number, we can't determine if that's actually a stolen gun. Elliot said, can you please describe B-Link in more detail? Are there other video camera options that would also be useful, for example, north side condo communities, to see who comes and goes? And I think maybe there's a little bit confusion on what B-Link does and what it doesn't do here.
So if we're talking about a residential area, what we would be asking you is just to register your pre-existing cameras. Now, if the condo community wanted to get together and purchase B-Link cameras in and of for the entire condo, then what would happen is once you signed up, we would get in contact with you, and there is a group of or a list of service providers that can kind of walk you through what they feel would be best for your community, providing you the best views and all that other good stuff. And so they would kind of walk you through which camera, types of camera, and the overall cost of those cameras should you want to go down that road of B-Link. But again, I just want to make it clear, B-Link is a great option. I just want to make sure everyone knows we are not monitoring those cameras 24/7. They are monitored, or that we are able to get the video after something happens, or if officers have the ability while they're en route to something. A lot of our officers have access to those cameras and they can see what's going on as well.
So Malcolm, this is more of a comment or suggestion on crime fighting, I guess. Says there are high crime areas as compared to other entire county because of the sale of drugs to the public in high crime areas. Take crime out of high crime areas, you have to end the sale of drugs to the public in those areas. To find the drug houses, you have to use informants and also follow the flow of customers to the place where drugs are sold. And there's other comments. One thing I would comment on, we often say whenever we get complaints about drug sales and what are detectives doing about it, is that if you see our undercover officers working to combat drug sales, they're probably not doing a very good job as undercover officers.
Right.
Any other comments on drug sales and prevention of those? Commander?
No, sir.
Oh,
No,
okay.
sir.
Jay said, how can we get a copy of this town hall presentation? Jay, this will be on YouTube later tonight. So IMPD, the YouTube channel, and it'll be on Facebook, the North District Facebook page within the next couple days. Diana said, I know all officers work hard every day and we appreciate all that they do. Thank you, Diana. We appreciate you. This is not the police cannot do this alone. We say this time and time again that we need community partnerships to get information, to learn information, to help combat crime and to resolve conflict. So this is definitely a partnership with others. See, if you have any other questions, we're wrapping up here. And I don't see any other questions, but I'll give it just a second. If anybody has questions, they can put them in the chat or in the question and answer section. But as always, the contact information for the commander and for the community engagement is on there. Somebody said, any increase to gun crimes since the law changed last year?
I don't know that we're necessarily tracking it as compared to the date. I mean, I don't know that we can attribute it specifically to the gun law change.
Yeah, and there is certainly gun crimes is a broad category. We're talking about violent
Right.
crime involving guns, or we're talking about possession of illegally possessed firearms. So that's kind of difficult. We'll post the IMPD YouTube channel in the chat here momentarily. And then, Commander, we got a request. Can you show the QR code again?
Yes.
If you missed it. There it is. I'm posting the link for YouTube. Encourage you to follow us there. There's a lot of content beyond just these town halls. A number of opportunities to get to know our officers through Before the Badge video series, Officer Spotlight, and see some of our body camera, what the officers do in real time through our Sworn to Serve video series. I don't see any other questions. Commander, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I just want to again appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. I hope you walk away a little more informed about what we're doing to help uh, um, reduce crime within your community. But I can't leave this conversation without saying that we absolutely cannot get this job done without you being out there supporting us, but also providing us information and being a part of the solution. So this is 100% a team effort that involves you, the community, and it starts with just kind of getting to know what we're doing. And if you have any thoughts or ideas that you feel should be implemented, please reach out. We can talk through it. But it starts with the team of you and I and our department working together to solve the issues that we face.
Thank you very much, Commander, and thank you for everyone for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful evening and enjoy this wonderful weather that we're having outside. Have a great night.